Do lighter F1 drivers have an advantage? At the top of motorsport and Formula 1, teams are about finding milliseconds, and to do this they will take grams off their car in order to gain this advantage over other teams. Teams will run the lowest amount of fuel possible in order to gain this time advantage. An example of where this went wrong was with Sebastian Vettel last year on the Hungarian Grand Prix, where he was disqualified after having an insufficient amount of fuel in his car to take a sample after the race. This resulted in him losing his P2 position. Some teams even will run under the designated recommended amount of fuel on a race and hope that they will get a safety car where they won't need to push as hard and won't be using enough fuel. So with teams worrying about kilograms of fuel differences in order to gain time, what about drivers? Surely there must be quite a large discrepancy in the weight between drivers on the grid. Let's have a look at the cars, as this is much more significant than the drivers. Cars must have a minimum weight. They can go over this, but they will be losing time, so teams will get as close to this number as possible. The 2022 new spec cars need to weigh a minimum of 798 kilos. Compare this to the 2008 McLaren, which weighed 595 kilos. This is a percentage increase of 35% more weight. So of the 798 kilos, where is this weight coming from? This will include the driver, their helmet and all their protective gear, the car itself, a set of dry weather tyres, but this does not account for the fuel. Additional fuel loads can weigh up to 110 kilos for some races. This puts the cars at over 900 kilos, getting close to a ton. So now let's look at the drivers. Yuki Tsunoda is the lightest driver on the grid, weighing only 54 kilos, where Alex Albon is the heaviest driver on the grid, weighing 73 kilos. This is a difference of 19 kilograms. There have been lots of different estimates at what 1 kilo of weight accounts for a lap time, and it will obviously differ between different cars and different tracks, but it has been estimated around 300ths of a second. If you multiply this 300ths of a second by 19 kilos, as it is per kilogram, this puts a time of 0.57 seconds between Tsunoda and Albon over a lap. Now this is a massive difference, and this could be the difference between a championship winning car and a midfield team. So what have the FIA done about this? So in the technical regulations it states that drivers must weigh a minimum of 80 kilograms. This is a relatively new rule that was introduced to allow drivers to maintain a healthier weight. So what if a driver doesn't weigh 80 kilos, as there are currently no drivers that weigh this much on the grid? So let's look at Alex Albon. As I said, he weighs 73 kilos, so this is 7 kilos under the minimum weight. So he will have to add 7 kilograms of ballast to his car in order to meet this 80 kilogram requirement. Before this, drivers would undereat, dehydrate, and as you can imagine, this is not what you want in the pinnacle of motorsport. You want drivers correctly fueling themselves so they can operate at the highest level. So what is ballast? It is a dense material that is added to the car to allow all drivers to reach this 80 kilos. But where you add the mass to a car will affect the centre of gravity, as a lower centre of gravity will provide better handling of the car. To do this, the FIA have stated that this ballast must be added into the cockpit and is typically mounted on the seat around the mid-level. Ballast is made of a super dense material, such as tungsten, as this takes up little room in the car, as you wouldn't want to use a light material, as this would just be wasting space in the Formula 1 car. So if all drivers weigh this 80 kilos with their ballast, why do you see drivers weighing themselves before and after races? There are actually two reasons for this. First of all is for medical reasons. Drivers can lose up to 4 kilograms of fluids during a race, as they are extremely physical and it is very hot in the cockpit of the car. They'll need to know how much water they have lost so they can replenish this after the race with electrolytes. Hamilton in the Hungarian Grand Prix last year was extremely fatigued after having COVID and really struggled on the podium. The second reason for drivers weighing themselves is for ballast. They need to figure out what this difference between the 80 kilos is so they can add it to the car. So the minimum weight is 80 kilos, so what if drivers are over this? The F1 drivers work out not only to improve their strength and endurance, but also to maintain this 80 kilo limit. There is no information on what if drivers go over this, so I assume it is expected that all drivers will be able to get under this 80 kilo limit. Esteban Ocon is 6'1", so the tallest driver on the grid, and he only weighs 66 kilos, so it is clearly possible for all drivers to reach this target. As with any other sport such as football or athletics, your weight will affect your performance, so if you want to compete at the pinnacle of motorsport and Formula 1, you will need your body to match. So do lighter Formula 1 drivers have an advantage? The answer is no, clearly not. It'd be ridiculous if teams spent millions of pounds developing a car to go a few tenths quicker a lap, when you could just bring in a driver that was lighter, and drivers would be so favoured towards bringing in lighter drivers it'd be unfair. There are two things that I think should be considered, and it is how much does the ballast difference that is added affect the performance of a car compared to a driver's weight. A driver that weighs 80 kilos compared to a driver that weighs 50 with 30 kilos of ballast added to the seat. It'd be interesting to compare these two cars and to see how the car handles. Another thing to note is what if a driver weighed over 80 kilos? I think they'd easily be able to get down to this 80 kilo, and if this was what they wanted to do, they could easily attain this. But it'd be interesting to see if a driver was over 80 kilos, what would happen. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, and also thank you for your support over the past couple of videos. The views have been starting to go up quite a lot recently, which is nice to see. If you could like and subscribe, that would help this channel grow massively, and it really helps the algorithm with getting new viewers to this channel. I've got a few video ideas coming out in the next couple of weeks, so please stick around, and thanks for watching. Bye.